Coal seam gas is exploding as a controversial issue across the state. Drew Hutton is the founder of the Queensland Greens, president of Lock the Gate Alliance, and a long-term activist. Annalise spoke with Drew about the candidates in this year's election, mining, and why you should be getting politically active.
Thank you for joining us, Drew. So, environmental issues, how do you feel that they've been represented in the political arena and in the state campaign so far?
Oh, they've hardly been represented at all by the political parties. But I think with the coal and coal seam gas campaigns that my organisation, Lock the Gate Alliance, has been pursuing, that's been able to get in there. I think there's quite a lot of concern out there in the public and really wanting the parties to address those issues.
Yeah, and how are you getting those issues put forth to the parties to make sure they're addressing them?
We figured very early in the piece that the only way that we were going to be able to stand up to the onslaught of this industry is to create a huge public movement.
Yep.
It was only people power that was going to do it. That's what we've done. We've mobilised thousands of people.
Well, people are very passionate about it. I've seen there's the Greens that are very behind it, the Lock the Gate Alliance, but I've also seen Katter's Australian Party and people like Alan Jones coming out. It seems like a very unlikely alliance of people from all sides of political spectrum.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, well, my background's in social science, and I just love watching, I love being able to pull back sometimes and just seeing how it all happens. But it started because I went west a couple of years ago when I saw all this happening, and I just went from farmhouse to farmhouse talking to farmers about it, and they took a look at me and said, "Oh, you bloody greenie, what have you got to offer us?" And basically what I had to offer them was, I said, "You'll never win this west of the Great Dividing Range. You'll never win it as a farmer's issue. This is too big. These are the biggest companies in the world. You're going to need allies, and I'm here to be an ally." We realised probably towards the end of 2010 that this was going to be such a huge fight, that we needed to go beyond just the normal lobbying and normal sort of polite media representations. It was going to be a lot more difficult and a lot harder struggle.
What do you think about the ALP trying to get something positive out of it with the Mining for Mines policy, where 50% of mining royalties are dedicated to education programs? What do you think about things like that? I
think it's a bit like bank robbers saying we'll give half our proceeds to charity. They are putting at risk the whole Great Artesian Basin. They're putting at risk good farmland, good productive farmland forever in some cases, but certainly for generations otherwise. They're putting at risk the health of local communities. They're transforming the natural environment of rural Queensland. This is too big a price to pay. And I don't care whether it's going into education or where it's going. It's too big a price to pay. There's got to be more forward-thinking and visionary thinking on the part of governments.
What about the two major parties? Are either of them suggesting to put a moratorium on coal seam gas?
No, they're too close to the industry.
Yeah.
They're too enmeshed in this. They never expected they'd get the opposition that they did, and consequently their plans are totally and completely to let this industry rip, whether it's coal or whether it's coal seam gas. And they are not going to learn the lesson until they lose votes because of it.
Political activism, you've been a political activist for a very long time. Do you think that Generation Y and the youth are political active or even politically aware?
The younger generation now, people at universities and people in their 20s, will have to confront this issue. This is the last dying gasps of the fossil fuel era. Before it goes, it's going to absolutely ravage whole regions of this country and many other countries around the world. This generation is going to have to look at this and say, I'm either going to do something about this, I'm going to try to protect my country against what these usually foreign multinational companies are going to do to it, or I'm just going to lead a privatised lifestyle and try to forget about it. And every generation, young, usually idealistic people in every generation respond to those challenges. I'm very confident that young people will respond to this and be politicised by it.
What would you suggest for young people trying to get involved in this sort of issues?
Look, it's really important that this not be seen as just a country issue. This is not just a bunch of bushies being upset about some NIMBY issue. This is something that concerns all Australians, and there's a really special role for young people. over the next couple of years, there will be many, many non-violent confrontations here. That we need young, adventurous, courageous people who'll stand up and fight for the country. It's nothing less than a campaign to prevent the destruction of rural Australia.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest issue that young people will ever confront in their lives.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the show, Drew.